My name is Rowan van Heever and I want to welcome you to Axe and Aim. So this is our very first podcast, and the purpose of Axe and Aim is to introduce you guys to interesting people and interview interesting people, whether it's people from business or just people that has a very interesting life journey to share. Because at the end of the day, I feel that everyone has unique stories that makes them who they are as authentic people. And also with these life lessons, one can always learn from them. So the entire purpose of this podcast is to get knowledge and principles and life lessons from people, because I believe that with a sharpened axe, you need the least amount of effort to use it. So today it's my privilege to introduce to you our very first guest to then also open up this podcast. And it's my parents. And I thought it will be quite cool to have them in studio for the first podcast. So welcome.
Thank you. Good to know that you said interesting people like Sagar.
Yeah, I thought to myself, I need to categorize it now without being too politically correct, but also be lighted in it. So I wanna thank you, and I wanna firstly ask, Mom, do you have new glasses?
Yes.
Because when I saw the glasses, when I saw it, I thought I haven't seen it yet.
I think it's with the age you start finding out you need to wear your glasses more.
I want to start with a quick point, and that is you guys recently became grandparents to a grandson, Simon, which is my boy, which is your grandson. If you guys can share with us a bit how has that experience been? Because I looked at you guys, and especially to you, Mom, when we were there the other evening for dinner. Simon was busy crawling around. Your house is not necessarily the safest child-proof house in comparison to us. I mean, there's Bella, the dog, and there's stuff. But as he was crawling into a specific area, you immediately jumped up. But it wasn't a jump up being anxious. I saw something there, and it was while we were busy having a conversation on the outside on the patio. Your eyes blinked up, and I saw that you were where's he heading to? I hope it's safe there. But it was in a super a playful, high energy, and a playful something that I've never seen from you actually ever before, and that was quite special for me. So I just want to, I can see it from outside, but maybe you guys can just also share.
Little Simon is just the best thing that ever happened to us. There's just, I said the other day to your father, you never know it before you have a grandchild, but there's a place in your heart that has just got this extra bit of love that you can give to this little boy. And if we don't see him for a week, it's just that spot just gets so empty that you just want to be with him and just hold him. And it's just so much fun to be with him and play with him and see how he develops. And every time we see him, he does something new again. So it's just, everybody tells you that when you have a grandchild, that's the best thing that happens to you. I call the day you have a grandchild, then you believe that he's true. He's the best thing that can happen.
We spoke about it, that you think if you love someone, if you love your kids and you love your parents, your family, that it's amazing that your heart expands and there's more. So it's an abundance of love, which is actually amazing, because we spoke about it to say, so how do you think you've got capacity? You haven't got it. Your heart expands. That's amazing. That to me is something about the Lord, that He puts in you His love. There's no scarcity; it's an abundance. So we loved Him from the moment we saw Him, and there's no relationship. It's amazing how it works. So the capacity of your heart to expand, sort of, to love. It's amazing. Yeah.
That I quickly also just want to touch on, and that is, I think being a new dad and also not really even knowing how to navigate this new journey, and also with so much sacrifices, late nights, and also being completely out of rhythm in terms of you have your own life up until the day when you have a child, and I think for me, and that's something that Celente and I were also speaking about quite a lot, is, you know, if it wasn't for love, then you wouldn't have the motivation to even take care of a little person like that. And that is, I think all of us have something completely unique to ourselves and who we are. And I think one big lesson that I've learned, there was two things. And as I was busy preparing for this, I thought about what that is. Because I want to honor you guys as well for this, because if it wasn't for you, and also for the love that you have had to myself and to Konrad, my brother, which, you know, we wouldn't ever have been in the position of like where we are now. And that is just reality. And I think it stems and it comes down to the concept of love. And so the two things that I learned from you was, there was an event at Mighty Men conference, and we all were on this bus, and we were heading on a bus. And there was a lot of people, and, you know, everyone has their own characteristics and their way of like communicating, etc., etc. And there was this one guy on the bus, it was Lucky. He explained in his own testimony the way in which you treated him as you were busy on the bus, and where it was something along the lines of where you made him feel so welcome and so loved on the bus. I think it was you gave him a seat, and I think it was just the impact that you left in his life. And as he shared his testimony, I just immediately also saw there that really the component of love, like that's something that you carry like tremendously, and also how you treat people is highly sensitive to people. And I want to thank you, both of you, for that. But I think for Dad, I think that's something that you taught me and taught us. You know, people are not numbers. The Lord gives us also responsibility to treat people like He would treat people. And I think that just left not only, and again, that's it's like the fruits of when things are fruitful. It doesn't just impact the person's life in which you initiate its impact, but also other people around it. So that left a lifelong impact in my life, and I assume from his side as well.
On the bus, because maybe I think there was a KFC burger involved as well. The guy didn't have something to eat, so it's sometimes also very practical just to say, but you know, there's someone that everyone is having lunch and eating and buying food, and this guy can't afford to buy something yet. So how do you eat a burger and you don't get someone something to eat? And I think sometimes it's stuff that you do without thinking about it. It's just being very practical in the moment where you can see there's something, a need. And it speaks to people, it touches them, but you don't plan it. Just be practical, yeah. So that was maybe a very practical example, like, is love just to care for someone if there's a need to help with whatever the need might be, and that touches people, yeah, impact.
And you look at where he is now and the ministry that he has also developed now, right? And I think acts of kindness also has a lasting fruit where you know, you get blessed in order to bless other people, whether it is in your personal life or whether it is in business. I think that there is always room to be a good steward in what you have. And again, I think that is something that you didn't teach me. That was a testimony that was shared through your acts. That's something that I will always, you know, carry with me, is how you treat with people, and that there is an absolute responsibility in terms of how you treat people.
But it is also a two-way street. So what you taught me, what you taught us, I think, is be in the moment, to be real in the moment. And, you know, sometimes you do it, but you don't realize it. But I think sometimes you need to be told, be aware of where you are, what you're doing, be present. That's something that you taught us. You spoke of, and that I remember. And it's great because we had dinner with friends yesterday evening, and it was amazing to think, it's a privilege to go and have dinner and enjoy good company with people you love, friends. And it's amazing just to be in the moment, enjoy it. We're giving that to enjoy. So that's a way, I think, two-way street, we rub off on one another, share stuff that helps one another.
And I think one thing that through life, and I think especially me being highly passionate about business and entrepreneurship and business ideas, you know, you always have this massive aspiration to do things that has never been done before, and also to allow yourself to play around your own head and dream about things, and then to really get to a point where you then practically start playing with those ideas and bringing stuff to life. And I think with that, there's seasons where it's not always going to go great. So it's almost like being in a constant state of reminding. It's like, you know, you get to do this. It's not the world is happening to you, but you have the control to take control over your life, whether or not you just lost a job, whether or not you're just starting out a business, whether or not you just came out of a divorce. There's so many things that happens in life that, you know, brings you to a point where I always see it like, you know, you start off great and then stuff happens and there's a valley of despair. And then as the weight of life comes and lay on you even more, you come to the pit of despair where it's almost like the breaking point. And I think in life, there's multiple such cycles, but to keep a good perspective, and that's what I want to bring to you, Mom, is I think the point that you taught me was, and you recently also underwent a back operation. So you recently underwent a back operation. We tragically lost an amazing grandfather and your father. And you went through also a period where you were faced with like a lot of challenges that a lot of people don't really know about. And so I think I just want to maybe touch on the point, and then I would want to actually like try and unpack that a little bit more. When I was younger, I suffered, as you guys know, I suffered from anxiety and panic attacks when I was like in grade 4, grade 5. And this will always stick to me was, jy's nou klaar en nou sit jy regop. And in English, that's like you're done now, and now you sit straight up on that couch. And that was done and said in a manner of love, but firm love. And that's where I realized that you cannot allow circumstances to control you. And I think, Mommy, that's what I want to bring out on you for, is you always had an ability, a tremendous ability to, because that's what you taught me through that. And again, it's weird because it's also love, eh? It's again love. It's like both of you have this embodiment of love, but the extension in which you deliver it might just be slightly different. Is I have sympathy for you. You had a blackout. You need time out, but you are now not going to further sit on that couch and allow your brain and the state in which you are in to steal further from you. And that was a bit harsh, but I knew it wasn't love, so I almost like I tested it. So I was like, okay, cool, let's like it. And that actually helped me to come out of my episodes. Where do you think does that tenacity and strength in mind comes from? Pull yourself up and say, listen, this has happened now, but I'm not going to let this conquer or get the best of me and get me down.
I can't really say exactly where I think it comes from, but it's just a thing to challenge yourself and not to lay down too long when something bad happens to you. I remember when my father died last year, you go through a period of mourning, but then there's a time when mourning stops and you carry on with life. And there's a time to feel sorry for yourself when stuff happens to you, but then you carry on. Then you get up and you carry on because life goes on. And if you stay in that position of lying down, like I would just call it, or in feeling sorry for yourself, you're not going to reach anything. Rather just get up and go. You must challenge yourself. The same with after my back operation. It took longer for me to recover than I thought I would recover. But there was a stage where I said to myself, now you're going to start walking again, even if it was just the length of 2 houses in the street. Tomorrow you do a little bit more and just challenge yourself just to get up and go again, because you cannot stay where you are. You need, life is there for you to live to the fullest, and therefore you need to move on. There is a time when you need to just relax. I always feel that in winter, when it's cold, you can hibernate a bit. But then when summer comes and the sun starts shining and birds start chirping at 6 o'clock in the morning or even earlier. Now you're there and then you move on again.
Yeah, and that's very practical, but it's also very beautiful. Where it's like there's a time for pain and there's a time for despair, and like embrace it. Don't try and just like rub it off like, this is nothing, and it's there.
Yes, you can't. You cannot just rub the pain off or heart soaring a loved one dies. You must go through the motions, whether it's good or bad. But then there is a time where it's finished now.
Yeah.
It's done now.
And I think the amazing part was after the back operation, I think it was a month from there, you guys were then a month after were walking in the streets of London. So you always also had a, am I right in it?
No, it's a couple of more.
Oh my.
4 months later.
But then there was a lot of walking out. So then
And there was a lot of walking.
17,000 steps or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's a reason for that back to also be like strong again. Traveling. You guys like traveling. Okay, so where in the world have you been and where are you going next?
There was a bit of prepping in this with regard to a hobby. So I'm now 57 at the end of the year, and I'm back because
You look great, by the way. I think as your son, I'm saying to you,
So I thought I haven't got hobbies, so we need to start doing something. Eventually you can't really retire. We haven't got plans to retire and sit somewhere, but you'll slow down on certain things, not in the corporate environment. Maybe after 60, it could be great, but yeah. So the hobby would be traveling, I think, for me. Yeah, I think that's something that comes, and we both share it. So we both love. We haven't. It sounds like we've been everywhere. We've been only to England and France. So we'd like to see the rest of the world.
Yeah, we are already planning and discussing the next trip, maybe in 2 years' time. Italy, Croatia, and maybe a little bit.
But if France is southern part of France.
I've been working on you guys in Salenta as well for quite some time to motivate you to go to Asia and to the Asian countries. But you guys don't like the heat as much and you aren't really sold on Cambodia and Thailand and Vietnam and those places. But maybe you can start with Turkey. Turkey might be like a good introduction. Then you get exposure to the food, culture, but the heat in Turkey is still super manageable and it's not so humid as it is in Thailand. When is your next trip? Firstly, where do you go to when you travel abroad, and why is it so great?
Well, we're fortunate to have good friends in England, the southern part of England, East Sussex, and so it's free boarding and lodging, which helps that for the guys that are not as old as us. That means
backpackers.
That means that you get to live for free. So you go to your friends, and you can eat there as well. So if you've got a problem with budget, it's always good to have family or friends where you can stay. No, joking, but it's wonderful. So we visited them 3 times now already. So that helps always. And then we're crazy about London. Is a beautiful city. Paris is beautiful. But we like to spend some time not being too much in a hurry, but spend a bit more time to people watch and to sit in a park or to literally lie down on the grass.
Why is that? Can I interrupt you? Because I want to find out why. Because both of you have unique things that interest you. Stuff like, let's go and lay down on the grass in London in a park. And other people think that's super weird and you're crazy. Why is that so? What do you get from that?
I think for me personally, is to experience the place we are, to experience how the Londoners live. They cycle past Buckingham Palace and it's nothing. That's their lives. To experience how people live, they being their place. They sit down on a park bench or they lie or they picnic on the grass. That's nice. And then things. The speed reduces, so it becomes a bit slower, and you take in more things, you experience more people and what they do. We're not into seeing 1, 2, 3, 10 things a day or whatever. So if it's 3 things that we can go and see and experience, that.
And it's also for me, it's very nice to the people watching part, especially in London, there's so many visitors from all over the world. And you hear all the different languages. You don't understand it, but you hear all the different languages. You watch how people behave. You watch how people take photos in front of big statues and the selfies that they take and how they do it. It's just so interesting in watching that. And then sitting down and like when we were in France last year, is to go sit down and drink their coffee and eat their croissants there because it tastes so different from how it is in South Africa. And we were there when it was the World Cup rugby, and all the South Africans
I need to say this. You guys were there for the World Cup rugby of France. You were there on the day when the Springboks played.
In Stade France, yeah.
And they didn't go and watch a game. They are supporters of South African Springbok rugby, but they didn't do that. But we won't do that again, Steve.
It was amazing. We walked there. And a lot of Afrikaans and a lot of South African English that you heard. It was amazing. That was nice. So that for us is an experience as well. To meet up with people in the Champs-Élysées and the Afrikaans people, or they come from Durban, the English speaking, whatever. But it's your people. Black, white, what doesn't matter who it is. We all planned that past. We were already planned to go, so we had to extend to move the date out. So we wouldn't have been there while the World Cup was on. Yeah. So we couldn't book any tickets or buy any tickets up front. So the time we got there, it was like crazy, like $20,000 or whatever. I don't know.
Still sounds like an excuse to me, but
yeah. So we ended up. We stayed in a beautiful part in a sort of just out of town, which was nice. It was like a town outside of the city, and we watched the game that evening with a nice bottle of French Bordeaux wine, and it was in French. So there wasn't even English. So it was we could see, but we could not understand. Yeah.
Something else that was very nice for us was because we were, the first time we visited France, we didn't know exactly which train to catch where, and it's also they drive on the different side of the road than what we do, so we always ended up on the wrong side of the road for a bus. But if we go and you ask people for directions, how friendly they were and how they helped us. There was one guy that walked with us about 3 kilometers to the Palace of Versailles, and he was just chatting away with us, telling us about the history of the country. And he said, no, it's fine. It was such a pleasure for him to walk with us and take us to the palace. And then we met another guy on the tubes, and he helped us, and he traveled with us on the train. Make sure we get off on the right station. Yeah. That's interesting, the people you meet and the stories you hear.
But maybe just on the guy that he was a retired teacher. So he was a teacher for 40 years, retired in his 60s. The guy that walked with us, and that is part of the people. I experienced the people, and he did us a favor. But when we said goodbye, then we took some selfies, photographs, and it meant so much for him that he could do that for us. Yeah, we don't know this guy from nowhere, and it was something that we walked away and we thought that he had some meaning in his day by walking 2.5 kilometers and out of this taking his time to help us, getting us the best entrance where we could go in, and not where all the crowded tourists go in or whatever. And it meant more to him than to us. And we thought, oh, thanks, it's taking trouble to walk with us 2.5, 3 kilometers. That was nice. So those type of Jean-Pierre. And that was, and we will remember this guy. We will remember his face. And so that's the nice stuff.
So Sarah, that is one of our account managers. Yeah, so she loves birds, and she's a bird watcher. So she goes and she photographs birds and she takes photos of birds, selfies. You guys are people watchers, so like you enjoy the people and you enjoy the energy of the people, and I think that there's a mutual transaction that takes place. And I think also there's people that are more open to human, connection, and open to want to help and want to learn and want to teach.
But on that, because a lot of people's experience is that, stupid example, like the guys in Paris, the Parisians, they don't really like speaking English people for that matter, and they're unfriendly. And I think our experience was that the way that you approach people changes the way they react back to you, the way they respond to you. So we really did not get anyone that was unfriendly, not unwilling to help. You would ask them, parlez-vous anglais? You speak a bit of English, and as soon as you try to speak a bit of French to them, they're willing to help you, and then they would do 3 words in English and they'll explain the rest in French, and you don't know where you're going. In any case, they try to explain where you must walk, but it was the response was friendly. The response was open. But I think it's a lot of the time how you engage people, how you, from what angle you come to a person, the response you get. Maybe not all the time, but maybe you 7 out of 10 times you may be lucky or fortunate that you get a good response.
And I want to bring that back to, again, thanking you guys for being who you are and distilling that back into me and allowing me also to then, I give myself the opportunity, but I obviously need to also do the things. But as to teach us that the way in which you approach people and also your intention, when we spoke about this the other day, where your intentionality should be, if it's going to be negative, no one is going to help you. There might be people that's going to help you, but their intention is more or less going to be the same as yours. If it's going to be awful, but then you're going to get basically what you ask for. And back to business, starting your business, starting running a company, having employees and clients. I think in Speed is very important when you build anything, because you can't still lay a foundation up until the age when you're 85. Like, you need to then have the walls in place. You need to start with your double story. You need to have the roof in place, etc. So speed is important. But I think that when people get to a point where, speed in which operation gets so busy, you tend to lose the human element. And I think that's especially true for us. As we grew and scaled the company now, the beginning of this year, I needed to remind myself that our clients is not a number, and I'm being truthful and honest about it. I think that there were a couple of times where I realized that the way in which we are dealing with them now could be a little bit more, not that we did anything unethical, but I think the approach in which you approach it should be, and the intention should be pure. Because at the end of the day, even though you are a CEO or executive, or you are a owner of a company that operates $1 billion rand a year in turnover, you are still a human, and you still enjoy things that humans enjoy. You still get hurt. There's still stuff that we are embarrassed about. And I think, I think that's a helpful lesson to grow as a person, but also in business, is the human element and how you interact with him. And I think that's something that stood out. I want to, if I could, I would want to just touch quickly on your current occupation. Like, I think you gave me the opportunity to be slightly rebellion when I was younger, but you still gave me a hell of a lot of leeway not to restrict me to a point where you constrict the combustion thing and then it exploded. Thank you for also the geduld that you had, putting up with specific things. At the time where I realized that I had to almost stretch out and grow into the stuff that I feel I wanted to do, there was never really a sense from your side of restriction. And I think now in hindsight, it might have to do also with the fact that you were also emotionally intelligent enough or inclined enough to be Jean-Pierre in France is a person, his own characteristics and his own personality and his own, you get the energy from him, but also then as your child, even though it's difficult because you want the best for them and you almost like want to have a structural framework or mold in which they ought to operate in because it's to your best intention. I think you guys also sometimes left me to a point where, like go and explore and do your stuff, even to the point where when I used steroids, like there was a time and season and under your roof and all of these things where you never condemned me, but you also never like try and push me in a position to be, constricted in that manner. So
your mom can comment now on her view on it as well, perspective on it. I think sometimes we said we maybe allowed you stuff that we should not have. Sometimes I feel was a bit ignorant in allowing this, but sometimes I think you also do it, and some stuff is born out of ignorance. You allow people to do stuff, and in hindsight we might say, yeah, but should we not have been more stricter or more checking up or whatever? But and it's funny, but that's how it worked out. You could develop in who you are through that. I think if it was more stricter, yes, there would have been maybe a bit of more rebellious thing. I think it was because you are strong-willed. You know what you want to do. You knew it from very young age, from very small already. In Afrikaans we call it hardkoppig en hardnekkigheid, hardkoppigheid. And it's a good trait. It is. It can be a challenge for parents, and sometimes you don't know what to do now with this. Allow something to happen and let it maybe just roll. And some people could say, but that's scary. How the hell do you do that? Why? But it worked somehow. And I think other children need more structure. And your brother differs from you, and we love you both very dearly, but it's the total different characters, and then you do things differently. And a lot of it is grace. I think it's by the grace of the Lord that you either do things or you don't, and it helps the person developing, however strange it might sound. So it wasn't a structured plan. It was, some of it happened by default, So I can only see grace in that to say, you will be protected, you will be, you'll be guided.
We've got dear friends, Freddie and Marita, who is a little bit older than us, and they told us when you turned into a teenager, because you grew up in front of them, if you come home one day with a earring in your ear, we must not make a big fuss of it. We must just leave it, because it's just a phase that you go through, and it will eventually just blow over. And so then one day you did come home with an earring in your ear, and we just said, we didn't say anything. We just said, okay, done.
So thanks to Freddie Marita.
Freddie Marita. When Freddie and Marita honor you.
Because, and what they always tell us, it's your story, sorry, but they said, don't worry, around about 23 they come back.
Yeah,
they become humans again.
Yeah. Because by 17 or 18 you turn to aliens, but by 23 you come back.
So maybe for the young parents out there, they do come around. So give them some time, they become human again afterward, after some time.
That's
so
amazing.
The earring story we left you, and then the steroid story is, I don't know, that is just by grace, I think.
Maybe we should make this, because this is like we're uncovering deep stuff now, but maybe we can make a separate podcast around that.
But yeah, I think with everything, it is just by grace, and then of course a lot of prayer went into it. You pray for your children where they don't know, but children don't know half of the prayers that goes up to heaven. So it's just by grace. Yes.
When I started the company, you gave me a verse which stuck to me and gave me the power, which gave me the endurance, but also gave me the peace, like the calm. And it was, you won't know what the next 5 steps will be. You will only know what the next step will be. And it will be dark because you won't see, but there will be a lamp onto your feet to see the next step. And that was something that I carried with for the first, I would say, for the first 2 years, like very much, because when you start something new, there's darkness. Like you do not know whether or not it's going to work.
Unknown.
Absolutely. And I think the lamp to the feet, to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, is almost like when you do have a child that is highly rebellious or that has a strong will. Not really, maybe rebellious is a wrong word, but someone that has a strong will, is to almost come to also a point of the valley of despair. You don't know, you don't have the answers. You know that you can't control him into doing the thing that you feel is going to be the best for him. He needs to explore it for himself. So I want to touch on the grace component to that, because I think for me, I share that as well, as whenever we decide to take on something big and new, there's absolutely a component of grace associated to that, where it's, you don't know what the next step consists of, and whether or not that would even work. So from all that we've said now during this, and like we just asked Kirsty now, like how long have we been busy doing this? This is 44 minutes. Like I can't even imagine. It doesn't feel like 44 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's quite cool as being the first time, doing something like this. I would imagine from an interviewee's perspective versus an interviewer, there's a shift in that.
Yeah.
And like I would be quite keen to also be like in your seat one day to experience that.
Can I just we had a quick break now, so I had to go to the gents as well.
Well, you guys don't know that, but we need to have a break because the SD card was full. My father's bladder was full. My mother's bladder was full. Like it was just time for a break.
Finished. You see, coffee's done. So I thought, going to the gents, I thought to myself, yes, oh, this is not what experience is this now? And it's amazing how you need to put yourself maybe sometimes out there to experience stuff and go and sit and have you don't know what to call it, interview, whatever you call it, but have this, because if you don't do it, you don't have the experience of it. So it's new. We're not used to this. We don't do this for a living, but it's good. It's great, and I think that's something that's keep on doing things. That you've thought maybe you can't do. You never. Why would you do it? Just try it. Just go and maybe expose yourself a bit to it, and I think you learn. Everyone is our son. Conrad is here. Is our son. It's something you learn about them, that we learn of you, being our son for 30 years. We learn stuff in this setup, in this sort of environment, which is Hive Your Business, and where we're having this chat, that we learn stuff of you that we might not experience, and we learn stuff about ourselves, I think, in the process as well. Yeah, which is great. So yeah, it's a good experience. I'm enjoying it.
It's also nice being here and doing this with you, with you being the CEO of this business. Just to give you some honor, is that to what you've become and what you've reached. We're talking earlier on about rebellion and stubbornness, and I don't think rebellion is really the right word. It's more a stubbornness that you've got because you are a driven entrepreneur. And without the stubbornness and without the wanting to go forward and wanting to do more and wanting to do new stuff and taking chances with stuff that we sometimes thought, no, Ron, you must be crazy in this, we'll never do this. You have become what you are today. You've reached what you've reached here. You've got this business, you've got all these people that's working for you, and we honor you for that, and we look up to you for that. Yeah, we do.
Thank you for that. I think but it also purely comes down to how you also distill the values within us, and that has afforded me and us
Instilled. I like distill because that's like wine. So I like wine as well. So
that you can go out and you can take chances, and there will be lows and there will be good times. But I think if we had to land the plane on this, what I've learned and what was unpacked today was more so around, our personal experiences, and almost like, go into a setting like a podcast, go in vulnerable, and both from an interviewer and as an interviewee, but be vulnerable and be open to it. I think, within business, there's two components to whenever we onboard clients and, having good matches of clients, and also employees and people with talent. There's two components that we look for. The first in business is skill, and it's a talent skill. So you need to not just, you mustn't just tick the box for the sake of ticking the box. Especially if I'm looking for a creative, the two things that I would be looking for is definitely skill, and then integrity is the other part. And integrity, in my opinion, will only surface when you're vulnerable, and when you're open enough to be asked specific, questions, and tell us your highs, but also, don't be shy of the lows. And not an Instagram lifestyle, even though it's beautiful to, look at the stuff, etc. But there's a realness component to it. And I think for today was primarily what I learned from this was the human element, and the energy that human exchange, which is an invisible currency. I think that is super, super, super valuable. And the intentionality around how you approach people is also very important.
It definitely impacts business, because it buys goodwill. If you've got a relationship, if you're honest, if you look someone in the eye and it's really authentic, I think people value that, even in this crazy world that we live in. But you spoke about, I think, skill and ability. If a person has got a willingness to learn, a willingness to be taught as well, there's the aspect of natural abilities, I believe, that you've got, and that you instinctively have got. That's great. But then the ability to be taught, to be learned, and to experience stuff and apply it. And then with passion, if you've got that, you carry, we spoke about traveling stuff. So immediately there's energy. We can feel it. You can feel it. So that's the stuff that you must go for. And see what works. Because we're there, the energy is not going to be something that it's not going to drain you. What you're busy with is going to energize you. It's gonna. So dealing with people, I like that. I love it as well. I think we like people, and that gives you energy, and that drives you. And if you can then tie it to your career, your business, what you're doing, I think, yes, that's excellent, because then you're going to excel. You're going to be great at it. You could do other things with putting pressure on yourself or whatever, but I don't think it's sustainable, but if it comes naturally and it energizes you, go for it.
I really enjoyed this. It's the first time ever done something like this, and I appreciate you guys. I almost want to say fly out here, but we're not yet in Miami. You drove out here from Lorraine. So thank you guys for coming down, and thank you also for sharing with us and the viewers, like sharing your story. And I want to thank you guys, and I want to honor you also for the years in which you've allowed me also to grow, and I wish for more podcasts like this going forward. Thank you.
Blessings for you, your brother, and everyone working here for them. That you can really help. I thought you can't bless the business, bless the people, because the business will come with the people. But we're proud of you, both you and your brother, that's also involved in the business, and what you're doing, and what you're doing for your customers, for your clients. If there's a realness and integrity in that, you will have a product that you can sell, because it will sell itself out. So big proud of you guys.
Guys, that's a wrap. I want to thank you if you sit through this entire podcast session, I want to say congratulations, because it was the first time that we've ever done anything like this. If you had found any sort of value in this, please let us know. I think it would mean the world to us. It will also help the algorithm to obviously, reach more people. Please let us know if there were any sort of value that you got from this. And then yes to the next episode of Axe and Aim.